Hey there. All right. Well, happy Saturday. I know it's kind of a weird midday weekend stream today, but I decided to give a go to my favorite game of all time. Why not, right? That's the whole reason why I set this thing up, is so I could get a couple hours to blast through this and see how good I can get at it. Right now, I think I can beat the game in a few hours, so let's hope it doesn't take too long. I don't get lost. So this game came out in about 1994, which was that would be at the height of my probably initial video game playing history. Definitely never owned this game, but I rented it about a billion times. I probably could have paid for it like twice the amount of times that I rented it, and I beat it once or twice when I was a kid. But I was using someone else's save file, and they'd gotten through a couple spots that I had never figured out. Obviously, now in 2018, this game has been mastered to the point where people can beat it in like 40 minutes. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm nowhere near as good as most of the people, any of the people who play this game. Watch a lot of Twitch streams of people just blasting through this game, but again, it's one of the most fun games to play. The physics on it are great. The music is awesome. The whole like evolution of games where you explore and are thwarted by physical obstacles that you can then fix with items that you find from further exploration. The whole thing, I think, really reaches a pinnacle here. And then later on, games like Castlevania and other, even Breath of the Wild, actually playing that recently, I noticed a lot of stuff where I'm like, oh, I can't get any further until I explore and get rewarded for exploring. So I'm going to start from the beginning. Just regular controls, all that stuff. Should be pretty good. The last Metroid is in captivity. Galaxy is at peace. This, again, blowing your mind in 1994 to hear real voices talking on home consoles. You'd hear that a lot on arcades at the time, but to actually have human-ish sounding voices on a home console game, you're thinking, I wonder how much of the budget that actually ate up for memory. It could have been quite a bit. Sorry, just checking things out. We appear to be good. Had some weird memory issues or streaming something issues where nothing was really working good. Hopefully not too much lag today. So let's get it going. So this is a callback. They do a really good job in this game of tying it into the previous two sequels by like showing these flashback, black and white scenes. At the time, the second Metroid game had come out on Game Boy, and it was kind of neat to have the continuity of the series continue through, three different consoles. They literally made just one game each for the system, and I think it was Game Boy, either Game Boy Advance or the GameCube. No, it was Game Boy Advance. That was the only time up to that point I think they'd made more than one Metroid game for a console. When they went and did Fusion and then Zero Mission and all that stuff. Zero Mission is a remake of the first Metroid game. I think last year they put out was a remake of the second game. So, is there a remake of this game on the horizon? I hope not, because it's perfect. I just want to see it put on the Switch in some capacity. Alright, so Space Station is under attack, and we are about to start the action in this kind of tutorial intro stage that you really, you're not really up against any real risk or anything. It's just kind of a fun little intro to test out the physics of the game for yourself. Woo! Very blue. This game definitely took advantage of, parallax, Mode 7, kind of everything that the Super Nintendo had going for it. I feel like it really got good use out of the hardware. And there we see the Metroid hatchling. If you were paying attention to the story, it was you kind of rescued it from the planet, and it is the subject of some galactic controversy because everybody wants it because it's basically the MacGuffin of the series. These things are valuable because they have weapons capabilities. Alright, then you got this countdown really quickly. Again, the game moves pretty quick to this whole panic mode of like, you're gonna die if you don't move quickly, if you don't figure out this game. Steam, the worst. So it's cool when you kind of backtrack through this area and all of a sudden, like, they've changed all the backgrounds. It's super colorful and... Oops. Yeah. This will always get me. And you see, through just, again, graphic things you couldn't have on the Nintendo. Just blasting. Like the whole Mode 7 effect with just, like, explosions and the whole level's rotating. It's pretty cool. Also, it's a pretty horrible time for leaving the exit chamber or whatever you call it. And this is pretty much the end of, like, kind of cutscene story stuff for most of the game. You're left on your own. There's not any dialogue or anything until you basically beat the game. So this is just all set up for this part of the game, the meat and potatoes, just exploring. Get to this level and you're kind of wondering where all the people are. Oops. Essentially, the only thing you fought so far is Ridley, and he completely kicked your ass, and you get to this planet and there's just nobody there. It was a great setup, actually. Again, taking a cue from, say, a movie like Aliens, where this is essentially the same thing that happens where they have, like, it's a sequel, it's like, oh, we gotta go and solve this problem where you have this, like, alien species, and there's, like, who's gonna, people get a hold of it, they could use it for making weapons. And then you get to this planet like in Aliens where you get there and you go down to the center of it and there's nobody there, and then eventually they drop the floor out from you and you just get attacked. They're swarmed by aliens. Essentially is exactly what happens in this game, but a lot of people saw this as a tribute to that franchise, even with people like the names in the series like Ridley, obviously named after Ridley Scott. Never tell with webcams if I'm in the right spot or if there's just too much, the cinematography is really not going to be the greatest on this. But I do what I can. Also, anyone let me know if there's some crazy weird sound issues, because I'm kind of doing this without any sound, playing it silently, because I just can't find the adapters to get this thing working right. Oop. Try and wall jump my way out of here. These guys just crawl up in the walls, very alien looking, but of course these guys have eyes and everything like that. They're kind of more insectoid than the alien design, but they still kind of have that same effect of just kind of showing up out of the blue. And then you come back, and again, this is the second time they've done this in the game, where the whole level has just been, put alive. Last time it was with the, the whole thing was on fire, and this time it's like, oh, no, here's all these critters. I do kind of funny, the realism of this is like, okay, so these all appear to be naturally occurring, just, flies, bugs, and things like that, or are we supposed to believe that they were all put into hiding until you, got to a certain point and got a power-up, and they just, like, told everybody, it's like, all right, get out there. So are these all sentient animals that are employed by the mother brain? I don't know. I always like to think of it the whole time she was going through that, they were all there, and she was just walking through like some sort of giant hologram version of the planet. But who knows? Alright, so this is the first kind of mini boss when you get to the planet. Not going to give up the bombs too easy. And we're off. So now we've got missiles, bombs, shooter, pretty decent jumping. We can cover a lot of ground with where we are right now. But as we'll see, it's like just when you think you can kind of get through everything, you'll see there's more obstacles and you have to find more items to get yourself through them. That's the joy of the game. Energy tank upgrades. Again, by the end of this game, you're basically an unstoppable force, but you start off pretty weak. Although, I think out of all the Metroid games for the early console, this is one I feel less helpless at the beginning. You can still do quite a bit of damage to people and get by pretty good without dying. And the first Metroid, it felt like you start off with, I think, 30 points or whatever. You're kind of already in danger of dying basically from just a couple of hits on like really small enemies. All right. Nope, that didn't work. I'm not really good at it. There's a lot of secrets and tricks to get through this game faster or access areas a lot sooner in the game than you're quote-unquote supposed to. I think a lot of them are built in on purpose. Kind of let people have some sort of replay value on this. See, it's hard without sound. I usually use those as my cues for when to jump. There we go. So you can speed through all those barriers that you normally would have a problem that would block you from getting these weapons right now, and the power missile, or super missile, sorry. I also get a handy reserve tank. This is my favorite room here. I think you get like 5 power-ups all together, just in one little 3-section room. And it gives you quite an advantage when you go forward in the game. Like, normally you'd turn back, you'd get a missile upgrade, and you turn back. You'd come back later when you had the speed booster to actually get through this. But here, you can just, there's kind of sort of a secret thing that you would find if you had to, Like I said, if you got stuck there, you'd eventually shoot your way out through the ceiling and find that you could go through there. But I remember that. I'm never able to, like, I see some people that can just fire off the 5 missiles that you need to fire off. And I'm always come up one short or I use too many. Yeah, with platforming, it's all about like the precision. I find this game to be one of the more forgiving ones. First of all, you can take a lot of hit damage. That's Charge Beam. That'll come in handy. That gives you basically the ability to do damage to bosses where otherwise simple shots wouldn't work. I also love the effect of the falling kind of like this is a, you know, kind of like the spore room or something like that. Like seems very like organic in that, and you have these kind of like floating spores. Reminds me a lot of movie Nausicaa. Miyazaki films. I don't know if it was. I feel like there's an intentional homage there at another point in the game where they come across an enemy that looks a lot like one of the central creatures in the movie Nausicaa. Great movie. Gotta watch what I'm doing here. Trick to jumping, it seems like you gotta be moving to do these spin jumps, and sometimes you spin jump when you don't want to, and sometimes when you want to spin jump you can't if you aren't precise with the controls, like me, who is not precise. What I meant to say was if you're not precise with the controls, like me, who is not precise. Anyway, alright, so we got ourselves Spazer. This is like a, you can see, a decent weapon upgrade. Gives you 3 shots instead of 1, which will sort of come in handy. These guys will bite you. And this is kind of, there we go, sequence breaking, where you're not supposed to be able to reach that unless you have the high jump, which I don't have, but you can kind of mess around with this game, kind of go anywhere right from the beginning if you just wall jump or do the mock ball. Really nice if some of these would drop some health power-ups, so I'm kind of concerned about that, but we'll see if I can get through this in one life. If I can't, I'm not going to save. I'll just come back and do it some other time. Pretty decent health drop there. That's probably enough. It's weird. You always know it's a boss door, and they have like some sort of like weird eyeball creature that decides to live inside the door on top of it. You have to fight him to open the door, which I thought was really cool. Alright, we have a giant boss here. Looks pretty mean. Oh, almost got him. There we go. All right, and this leads us to our first major reward, which is the suit. I feel kind of weirdly off here on the camera, but I'll deal with it. I always like this guy here where the bugs come away. That's like you. Another version of you that tried and failed. The idea that there was other bounty hunters in the galaxy. The kind of just a simple little graphic like that, just tells a kind of just tells a whole story. It kind of leaves this up to the imagination of like, oh, you're not the first person to like try and beat this. One of my favorite parts. Trying to get out of here without a high jump. Ugh. Ugly. I'm actually gonna leave that tank for later because I am gonna come back here and I'll probably need the health. Ooh. It's so counterintuitive with this webcam because I have it completely cropped on one side to fit into the square, so every time I move something it seems like I just get further away. I should be over here, or should be over there, I don't know. Not too concerned. Over here? Is this what I do? Am I too far to the left, to the right? Can't tell. Alright, we got ourselves some high jump boots. These are fun. Okay, I seem to know where I should be standing here. This is dumb. I don't really have a live monitor myself because I only have one monitor screen to work with and a couple iPads going of the Twitch stream. Alright. So once we get the high jump, that kind of opens up a lot of areas to us that, again, like, just like the bombs. Every item, with the exception of, say, like there's an X-ray item that allows you to see through walls, which is handy if you're a completist and you're kind of going through the game for the first time, but pretty much every item is directly related to moving the story forward. So if you find an item narratively, you're kind of generally supposed to go like the first place that you notice where it'll allow you to move. So, for example, we picked up a suit that gives us an ability to kind of exist in the hotter room. So this is where we go as soon as we get like a suit upgrade. You notice it's pretty hot in here. I love the effect in the background of the kind of like temperature waves distorting the light there. Oops, too many missiles. Skip these starfish, seahorses, sorry, and be on my way. This room with the bubble designs definitely feels like a throwback to, the first Metroid. There's a lot of levels that had this bubble stuff going on. Now see here, if I can make this is a tricky one, but if I can make I cannot. If I can make a jump, and a wall jump, there, then that allows me to go here and get speed boost, which will help us up considerably later. I love these long rooms that you run through, and you realize as soon as you get this thing that it's completely designed for the speed boost, which is, you know, this is the moment I remember thinking of, you know, all those Genesis ads, and they're, you know, talking about how awesome Sonic the Hedgehog was. And this is clearly just as fast to me. Seems faster. It's like, oh, we turn blue, and you just start running, and you are fast. And plus you can kind of upgrade your health here, which is super handy. Alright, the other thing we're going to pick up here is the wave beam, which is one of the better beams in the game, maybe the best one. Certainly the only one you really need, aside from the charge beam. Hey, Jess, how's it going? Paper Gal. I didn't think anyone would be on this early in the afternoon, but I'm playing Metroid, Super Metroid. And here we have the wave beam. The best beam. One of the cool things about if you go into the sub-menus, is you can customize. Sometimes I make it and I miss the spikes, but nice trick. You can turn off. Oh man. You can turn off and on all the beams that you get in the game, and you can almost have all of them equipped at once. I think there's one where like plasma gets rid of one of them or something. Like you can have plasma but not wave at the same time. Anyways, I always thought that was cool because you can kind of do different combinations of beams or just have one beam. And then later on when you get the power bombs, which is a really good kind of addition. So like, again, with a super missile, of course they gotta have the power bomb. It's like everything that was like a standard of the original has to be like upgraded and made super. We're coming up on another mini boss here. This guy, I forget his name, Crocomire? Blinky. Hey Blinky. He's hungry for beams. Well. You just shoot this guy back and push him into the water, and you're good to go. Boom. Yes, I'm jumping across acid. Yes, I know it's a bad idea. But I want that energy tank. Alright, good to go. Still jumping through acid. Ow, 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 ow. Wall of spikes. Never good. Any problem can be solved with a wall of spikes being taken down. It's one of the more gruesome Nintendo video game deaths, where you have this thing that you've dropped into acid and he shows up with his skin melted off and just disintegrates with a nice bone sound effect that I'm assuming you can hear. Alright, there we go. So now that we got him out of the way, we can focus on this area and get ourselves the grappling beam, which is one of the... I remember that was one of the big kind of like selling features of this game, where it's like, oh, we have a grappling beam in this one. You can like swing around and do all this crazy stuff in 360 degrees. Kind of remind. I remember when this came out, and then Castlevania 4, I think, was an earlier game, but the whole idea of like, you know, oh, you have a 360 degree whip, or it's like, oh, 360 degrees. That was a hot, like, buzzword for video game stuff. You could do something in 360. So I guess back in the day we couldn't even point up. Oh yeah, need the bomb. So the power bomb will just be massive, slow everything down, and allow you to do stuff like this. Give you the room clear. So you can take a run and jump and do these crazy shine spark things where you kind of power up and run. Ooh. And there's the grappling beam. I don't use it much. There's a couple areas where it's definitely essential, but you can get by pretty good without it. And again, I'm going up this way. You're supposed to be kind of stuck here and then have to use the grappling beam to get yourself out of the mess you're in. But you can actually just jump your way up that wall, or just speed boost your way through it. Some more power-ups. Oh. Yeah, I'm not going to speed boost, so I'll just wall jump my way through it. There we go. Wall jumping is one of those things I never learned how to do until I came back and looked at this game and saw what other people had been doing. I think they force you to wall jump at one point, but even then I usually just turn the console off and restart in a spot where I got stuck. But now it's old hat. Okay. I haven't played this game in a while, trying to remember where I'm going. As you can see, it's just words like labyrinth definitely apply to this, where it just seems like there's just endless levels. All interconnected. None of them particularly leading anywhere. Alright, now that we have the Shine Spark, we can go through this level. Yay! Okay. Ice Beam. So this lets you freeze stuff so you can jump up and on enemies and use them as platforms. Super helpful, but not everyone needs it. For example, this guy. There, now you have a platform. Now you have a platform. Now you have a half a platform that you fell into. Power bomb my way through there. A little secrety thing. Oh, I totally messed that up. I screw that up all the time. screwed that up. There we go. That's like one of the harder missiles I've ever found in this game. It sucks. And what you want to do is try and... Oh, jeez. So that was what I was supposed to do, so I didn't have to go and backtrack through all that stuff I was doing before. So now we're on track to leave this area and head to... I think the wrecked ship is next. Which is kind of like the crazy, like, alien technology, sci-fi-ish looking... Well, it's all sci-fi, but this is definitely more, like, primitive, kind of weird aliens, like, organic stuff. And then we're heading definitely towards a more, like, mechanical area. First, I'm going to backtrack a bit. There is a lot of backtracking in this game. I try to avoid as much of it as I can. I know some people have figured out some really great routes to completely minimize it, but I always end up coming back for stuff. Here in particular, if you go back after you have the power bomb, you can get this power up. I think it's a missile. It's usually a missile. Yep. Okay, there we go. And these guys, which are kind of like these weird flea things. I like them. Alright. Energy tank. Good to have full power going into the next part. There's going to be this horrible boss, Fantoon. Ah, come on. Now that you have the ice beam, you can freeze all these enemies. So you don't have to worry about them biting you. It sucks to get bit. Alright. Just cannot wall jump to save my life. There we go. Ah. Tough climb. Yeah, these things here, I think they look like Nausicaa. They kind of have moved the same, and they have these little glass shells that they hash themselves out of, which is exactly like the like in the movie. So I feel like that's the only time those enemies show up too. So I feel like that's definitely like a little tribute someone threw in there. Which I think tributes are cool in video games. Easter eggs, whatever you call them. Move forward and out. This will be better. And another missile. Huh, so I went offline. Did not go offline. Let's deploy. Woohoo! Another missile. And this is definitely an area where the grappling beam comes in handy because you'll need it. Ah, fell in the water. You want to avoid the water because you can't really maneuver in it. It's super tough at this point in the game, but that usually tells you, usually when you come up against an obstacle like that, it tells you, oh, you're about to get a power-up that'll let you kind of conquer that obstacle pretty soon, which you do. You just gotta go look for it. This is like the third time they do like a kind of fake out like this, where it's like, oh, there's nobody here. Except this time you know there's ghosts here at least, but yeah, you have this kind of unpopulated ship. It seems to be a ghost ship, but of course you meet a boss, you fight him, and then everything comes back to life. But it seems to be definitely the big thing they were going for in this game, because they didn't really do that in Metroid, and they didn't do that in the second one either. But they sure did it to death in this one. I was like that if you wall jump off this guy, he'll shake. Just to let you know, he's just hiding. He's still annoyed with you. He's under orders to not attack until you get to this level. I don't know why, but I usually turn off everything but the wave beam here, just because I find it easier to get by. I know you're supposed to use there's a power bomb upgrade you can get. Like if I use the bombs here and I only have one beam charge, and I go like this, I have this pretty crazy ability here to have these power-ups circling me. don't know why the charge didn't work here. Again, I usually go off audio cues so you can kind of hear the charge beam, but I can't hear anything. I hear people taking their garbage out outside. But one day we'll get the headphone thing fixed. All I was hearing was my own voice, though, delayed, which is just impossible to... Yeah, we're going to be here a while. Really hard not to get hit by those blue flames. We're down to 9 energy and whatever's in our reserve tank, which is probably not a lot considering I don't think I've filled it with much. That's why I got that energy tank. It's the thing, this fight just drains you. Oh, good though. 65 health left, which is not a lot at all. So while he's dying, I'm gonna put our beams back on. As you can see here, you can kind of turn things off and on. Even the morph ball, bomb, high jump boost, you can pretty much turn everything off. And there's a lot of tricks that you can do with that. Taking away an advantage to give yourself a distinct advantage in a moment. Like if you change a suit mid-jump, in some areas you can get a boost, that kind of thing. But I don't really know that much about that stuff. A lot of power-ups here. A lot of the stuff in this level is hidden. A lot of the time when I was trying to figure out how to get all the items, this is definitely like one of the last places where I found extra stuff. Like here, I didn't really know much about this place. You can just kind of go to the side. It's not on the map. If you actually do get the maps and stuff, it's like super missile. One of the things I like about this level is the fact that you kind of fight the boss first. The boss is the first person you fight in this level. And didn't really do that, but okay. And then there's no more boss, but there's a lot of like challenging areas. It's kind of just a subversion of your expectations. Whew. I usually don't make that. But I really don't want to get hit much because I don't have too much health, and these are areas where damage starts to get a lot worse. Especially anything with spikes. Spikes are never good. Ah, there we go. Energy tank. So that's going to make the return journey to that kind of tower interior chamber thing a lot easier. Yeah, see, these spikes though will mess you up pretty good. And plus you're still in water here, so as you can see, like, maneuvering in water is an incredible chore. But I've avoided much of that so far because I don't like being in the water without the water suit. Go. These guys drop decent power-ups, but again, they're like these enemies in Mega Man where they're just slow and persistent, but they always seem to catch you at some point. This is an annoying room sometimes because you need to clear all the enemies to get 2 different doors to activate so you can exit them. You got these guys too are nasty. They're the barf pirates because they barf on you. So puke pirates are persona non grata. There you go. See, you can open that door up. I don't need to go through that door, but you have to unlock the door. If you come through it, all the enemies will respawn and you'll have to fight them all again, but you can do it all in one go and still open that door. This is kind of tedious because you have to, like, shoot these robots and convince them to move backwards through shooting. Just to grab a missile upgrade. Okay. So you see, if you go through this, everything is respawned. Yeah, these guys, but I just run through them all. I don't have time. Come on. Another hidden missile. Yeah, the wreck ship area has these items that are just insane, out of the way places that I would have no idea if it weren't for, like, magazines like Nintendo Power and later on, like, just online walkthroughs. I would never have known where any of this stuff was. Although I did find quite a bit just exploring, but, you know, when you play a game for 20 plus years and you still haven't found anything, that's a sign of good, you know, good programming in terms of, like, making sure stuff is still hidden, still challenging. Yep, just cheating, just running through the spikes. We have a first kind of cutscene of the game. It's not just a moment where you're not in control, but they, these things, I keep calling them the chocobos, but I have no idea what they actually are. Chorizos? Some sort of CH. And they take you down into yet another secret area. This is funny though, because you actually need this power up that you're going to get in that room there, which I'm not going to do. I'm actually going to further bomb my way down do some more secret stuff. Usually when you get kind of like an area where it's like, ooh, I found a cool secret, it's like, the great thing with this game is they have a habit of like hiding 2 or 3 more secrets, where it's like, oh, okay, I got this cool missile power-up. That was a cool secret, that was good to find, but then, you know, light off a power bomb and... there you go, more secrets. Reserve tank. Beer. I have no beer hiding in the house whatsoever. No beer. I'll have to go get some. Alright, so now as you can see, we have kind of free reign over the domains that are watered up. This would normally take, you know, just completely slow down like you're in quicksand, but also too, I love how the tiles here are plus and minus. I feel like that's very much a little touch to the Nintendo logo. Seems to always be plus and minus. Alright. So now we're kind of heading into like the midway point of the game where you do some backtracking, but you kind of open up areas you've already been to and just kind of see whole new area, like whole new parts where it's like, oh, I had no idea this was there. It's like, oh, there's your ship. Well, that's cool. Bet you didn't know that like just above you there was all this cool stuff here, like doors and things. And a super bomb, power bomb. I can call them super bombs, but it's because they're super missiles, power bombs. There's an area there. Coming up is one of the worst parts of the game for me. I always screw up, so I'm really hoping I don't screw it up, and if I do, I honestly am on a classic console. I'll just do a 45-second backtrack because it's like 10 minutes to go back around and fix things. No need to save. Also, like how the music has changed when you come back here. It's a lot more triumphant. Before it was foreboding, but now it's like, yeah, okay, you got this. Like, you know, things have been going pretty good so far. And this is cool. You skip a whole level by doing that room there. That, I'm glad I didn't screw up, and I still could screw it up, but yeah. Usually you kind of fall through this area, and unless you're perfectly on one, like in the middle between these two center blocks, you have to go through the whole area again to get every missile that's available to you there. Which I don't want to do. But it's nice to know that it can be done, where you only need to go through this area once. Again, these guys you couldn't kill the first time you went through, and now you just kind of go through them like they're like a knife through hot butter. Wait, hot butter through a knife? Wait, how's that go again? Hot knife, cold butter? Just melted butter with a knife stirring it. You know, how that all works out. So now when you come through this area, you find that you can actually bomb your way through the floor and go to crazy new areas that you never thought would be available to you. Those things are annoying, but you can just go through a door and you will drop all the enemies, which is awesome. Get that energy tank. There's in the center of the floor there, it's completely like ghost cubes. You just go right through it. So it's another area where you get teased. It's a throwback to one of the levels in Metroid. Well, levels, it's all one level, but one of the areas in Metroid where you see an energy tank like that, you run towards it, and this happens where the floor falls out. Which I can imagine would be very frustrating the first time if you weren't expecting it. Spiked ceilings, always fun. And here's where you have these guys here, the gremlins. But I don't have time to talk to them. Powerbomb there. That was really hard for me to that was definitely another one of the last things I figured out. I can't mock ball there. But once we get the power-ups from that, let's sayonara to the gremlins and get another power bomb ready. And head back where we came. This time, I'm going to beat... Now, a lot of people figured out a way to get past this. I suck. There we go. I was going to speed boost through it, but then I realized I was just going to fall through the floor. Which is completely not what we want to do. But yeah, a lot of people can skip this boss coming up. I just have not figured out how to do it yet, and still get the power up that he lets you get, which is supposed to be in the first super missile that you get in the game. But since we kind of found that room and did the trick, we don't need this. But to get 100% of items, we do have to go back and get the missile. Good news is this won't take too long because he's designed to be a boss, like one of the first bosses that you fight. It's definitely the first mini boss that isn't the bomb chorizo. Yeah, he's not happy. This clearly looks like more like a tutorial now that you've... There, we don't need them. But what you're trying to do is... By the way, I'm glad you don't have fall damage, or this would be pretty gruesome. Get what would be the super missile, the first one that you get in the game. Kind of bomb yourself out, and then you find out, oh, I'm in this area I was in before, but now you have bombs. You can open up these doors. Yellow doors open up, are opened up by super bombs, power bombs, sorry. And actually, just one second. Sorry. Back? Okay. Oh, definitely trying to... Give me a second here to figure out... You hear the chair, by the way? This chair's going to the garbage soon, but it's the chair I have right now, so I'm using it. Get back to this game in 1 second. Okay, everything seems to be working. An hour 17 into this. So, wonder if we can beat this in under 2 hours. That would be good. I'd like to have an in-game time that's around like an hour 30. It'd be great to get it down to an hour at one point in my life, but who knows if that'll happen. We'll see. There we go. Now the backtracking with the game, so you know, focused on. The cool thing about it is that when you do get back here, you're just able to do stuff like this, like kill these guys. Where before they would give you such a hard time. There we go, the power bomb power up. Again, where a secret area reveals a second secret area if you come back to it. I always found that super cool. I shoot that door out for a pretty good reason. Give myself a bit of running. And you can just jump through that, get another energy tank. Perfect. Through these areas we've gone through again, but this time you are much higher powered. Still taking hits though because you're sloppy. You can see that door there. I usually do that. That's like one of the last things I get is that's where the X-ray specs are held, which we could totally get that now, but it's a pretty hard thing to get to on your own. You can get there with a grappling beam all right, but we get this power up later on. Kind of a spinning jump that really makes it super easy to just get in there and get the item and get out. And I'm only getting it for just to try and get the 100%. This is cool, this glass tube that you walked through before. Super bomb blows it up. Power bomb, sorry. Alright, this is an underwater level that would completely mess you up if you didn't have this purple suit that we have now. I'm always over too far to the left. You only have a very limited amount of time to do anything once you get these your super shine spark activated. I don't even think I got it there. Oh, I did. Perfect. There. That's like, I think that's the only way you can actually get to that missile. It's just ridiculously specific and hard to get to. Once we get that, then we can kind of try and get through this level. That was that missile in the wall. And an energy tank, so we're in pretty good shape. I mean, we've been in pretty good shape for a while. It's 100% items, so we're never less than well prepared. That's where the freeze beam comes in handy if you need like a platform. Just shoot an enemy. Again, I would never have known to look for that unless I saw the enemy go in there. Boom. Alright, sand. So, I think normally you leave, when we left the spaceship kind of level, there's a pretty long way you can enter this kind of world, whatever you call it, Meridia, which is like the water, kind of underwater part of the game. And Instead, we're kind of doing this a little bit backwards, but going back the way we came, but it saves us time on getting certain power-ups. Right. These two are annoying because it's just a couple missile upgrades or something. And, yeah. Not really necessary to finish the game, and it's pretty out of the way, but for the completist, you gotta go there. Right. So now we're getting into pretty specific areas where I gotta remember exactly what I did to get these items, because there's a lot of places where if you kind of make a wrong move, you have to do some severe backtracking. But again, that's kind of like the stakes get higher and higher the more you go through the game, where it's like, oh, if you don't get that item, you have to go back through a whole area. It's not so bad. Well, that was unnecessary. Okay, it's a mini boss level here, which I think is one of the only times where I actually use super missiles. I use a lot of them. Still got me. Yeah, I used up quite a bit of my health there, but whatever. That's a pretty gnarly move to get that one, but not the worst. Maybe one of the best ones I can do. Spikes. Oh, it wasn't so bad. Got a power missile there. Pretty good drop. That guy gave me nothing. Okay, and this is another one of the main 4 bosses. Oh, good. So basically, I mean, this is the one that kind of has like the dirtiest like cheat trick, whatever you call it, where it just starts spinning you around, and you can totally just grab onto if you've shot them out. There. Yeah, if you shot those cannons and they're just like electrical beams, you just grapple. Like if you look, it's like pretty similar to your own grappling beam. You just grapple it, and current runs through you and electrifies the boss. And since we're in a water level, I don't think it's pretty good to get electrocuted in water. Never seems to go well in the movies, anyways. And that's the second last boss before we meet the major boss at the end. So, all right, space jump. Controversial power up because I find it a little bit annoying sometimes. The controls on it aren't great. But then again, they're just different. It's meant to be kind of a whole new way of getting around. As you see, you can kind of all of a sudden move quite a bit faster through these kind of areas that don't just have flat surfaces you can't run across. But it's weird jumping in midair. You still have to kind of make, I don't know what the standard is, but there are areas where it's like if you don't jump soon enough, or if you jump too soon, you definitely don't continue to jump in midair. So it's hard to sometimes figure out what the rules for that are. Alright, starting my backtrack-a-thon. Those guys are good. These weird space rubber balls with... So you can see, kind of move, jump over enemies and keep jumping. It's pretty great. But the problem is... it doesn't always do what you think it should. So you have these two kind of parallel sandbox areas where you get these power-ups, and it is the one kind of part of it. I've tried to figure out the best way to, for me to get through this quickly, but you basically just have to go back and do the exact same area over again to get to it, which is kind of annoying. I was kind of hoping that they program the game so that you don't have to do any backtracking and still get 100% of the items, but that's not the case. So back in the quicksand, and right. Come on. Yeah, this sand is still annoying. This is weird because you have to get through that area. All right, we're just waiting for this guy to eat all the sand. I used to remember this guy's name. It's like Shacktool. That's his name. He was always my favorite guy in the whole of all the enemies or whatever. Because he's not really an enemy. He's just this weird sort of robot that looks like he could have been from Contra. And he's just like, hey, I just want to chop some sand up, but they put me in a room with no sand, and then you kind of blow up the blow up the column, and he's like, "Oh, thanks. Now it's time for me to eat sand. My favorite thing." Spring Ball, which is another kind of late addition. Not entirely crucial to finishing the game, but it's definitely cool. It gives you the ability to basically just jump from crouch. So when you're in the morph ball, you can jump, which is, you know, like I said, a small addition to your arsenal, but nonetheless a useful tool if you want to get into some crazy spaces and you don't feel like power bombing your way through them. Going through I like this area too, where it's just this weird long tunnel you go through. It's like extreme elevator time. Probably where they just couldn't connect two levels together, and they just decided to make instead of your typical elevator, they just wanted to do something a little different, because you're not really leaving the area you were in. See what I mean about the space jump, where it's like, yeah, for some reason you jump, you should be able to, but sometimes it doesn't let you, which is really annoying when you're trying to do something like that. Time jumps to get into weird areas where you're not supposed to be. And we fell right all the way down to the bottom here. Great. Okay, this is the second final, and as far as you finding it, that's the last beam to be found, the plasma beam, which replaces the wave beam, but it gives you pretty decent firepower here. These guys normally I don't think can be killed by much else other than running super fast through them. I call this the eggplant room. These things are the cactuses, but they're purple. I think it's like the only time they show up anywhere in the game. So I call them eggplants. Eggplants seem to be like the most villainous vegetable in all of Nintendo for some reason. Anytime there's like if you played any of the Hudson's Adventure Island games, I think this one, another RPG with like Mrs. Tomato or something. Anyways, like eggplants. You come across one in Nintendo, it's generally they're meant to be poison or bad for you, which I find ridiculous because eggplant is absolutely delicious when prepared properly. Usually roasted in a black bean sauce, it can be quite the dish. Or there's, of course, there's the classic eggplant parmigiana, but that's not my favorite. Second sandbox, so we can go through here and get the last of these items in the area of Meridian. Then we can kind of move on towards Lower Norfair with the fire level. You know, we've already been in it for a while, but the reserve tank. missile. Yay! So by the end of the game, I mean, you start off and you get a couple missiles, and you're like, oh, I have enough missiles to open a door, and have enough left over to like do some damage to some bad guys and stuff. It's pretty great. Then by the end, you have I think 230, 240 missiles, 50 each, and everything else. You were just so overpowered, but I think they kind of planned on a novice like myself playing this on a playthrough. You'd find some of the secret items, so you could still feel like you were discovering, crazy stuff that wasn't, off the beaten path stuff, and get all these power-ups. But like, you don't need to like find all of them to have a really good time playing the game. And this dumps you out right here, and you realize, oh, this is where we were like not too long ago. Oh man, I definitely understand gaming chairs now. I'm sitting in a wooden chair from the 60s, and it feels painful. But I will beat this in this chair. Just because. There's one of the saved rooms. We haven't used them yet, so we really hope I don't die, because I'm not saving what I'm doing. Getting fire spit at me. And here we are to the... You guys are annoying. Again, an area if you ever were unlucky enough to come across it earlier in the game, no way you could make it here without dying. You would think that. You can actually get through with a couple of tricks, but here we are after all these power-ups, is just go through it, and it's like, no problem. Bring it on. Ridley is always considered the match to Samus, or arch nemesis. More so than Mother Brain or Kraid or any of the other ones. Ridley's definitely got that special, it's like in all the Indiana Jones films, you have like the second in command guy who always seems to be the biggest challenge, and then the main boss is just, their only superpower is the fact that they are in charge. You have like the crazy guy that he has to kill with a propeller, or kill with fire ants or something like that. Ridley's kind of like that guy. He's the second in command. He's the top henchman, but he's the toughest one to fight. And he is pretty tough. One of those ones where there's really no good trick to beating him. You just gotta beat him. Be better than him. This is a really tricky one to make. You see a missile there, but that floor will give out. It's a fake floor. So... the first time I went for it and tried to get that missile, you just go, like you're hearing like, oh cool, missile, and then you just fall through the floor. And that's fun. The second kind of chorizo creature that you'll fight. Not the hardest guy in the world to beat, but that's if you're using the charge beam. you find a power up here for a super missile, and you find another power up for a missile, but if you throw those at him, he will just grab them and throw them right back at you, which I find hilarious. But I would show you guys, but I didn't want to take a super missile to the face. Alright, this is the screw attack, which is basically just adding a, you know, a cutting bomb damage type thing. I'm gonna charge up my energy here just to have it. And it's useful for stuff like this where you have these creatures where you just want to get your power missiles in order. Oh, didn't kill him. Well, whatever. As you can see, got through columns pretty handy. It's tricky to work. Again, you're using the super jump, so as you can see here, I'm not really... It's not 100% like anytime you hit the jump thing, you'll actually jump. That often won't happen. But you are invincible when you're jumping like that, so it's good if you're in a pinch, for sure. This is what I call the Mickey Mouse room. Because it looks like Mickey Mouse. There's another room just like this, only it looks like a mushroom. I always thought they were... I always think they're Easter eggs. I don't know for sure if they are. Oh, jeez. Oh, shoot. Well, now I gotta go through a whole area again. That sucks. Just brutally awful. So yeah, as you can see, every time you miss a lot of the power-ups at the end, if you screw up like that, you have to go through this area all over again. Which sucks. Oh well. At least we got the power-up. Kind of sort of half secret, but you get through it, and here we are. This is the kind of the main chamber of Ridley. Just gonna power bomb to get a power bomb. But yeah, definitely at this point, it's like the first time going through, I would go through this room and be like, oh, this seems like there's nothing here. You backtrack, and you come back. It's like, oh, if you use a power bomb, you can blow out the floor. These guys are ridiculously hard to kill because only get killed when they turn gold, and most of the time they're gray. Another room that took me like forever to figure out. Again, all these guys here that you can fight, or you could just use spin attack. Kind of a cheap power-up, but I don't mind it at this point. I just want to beat this game. Alright, it's coming up next. Ridley. Definitely feels like he's the main boss of the game, even though he's not the last boss of the game. Because again, the prelude to this was, he was doing Mother Brain's dirty work, and you faced him first. He's the first enemy you faced, and he's not the last, but it certainly feels like the turning point in the game where you are definitely like, I'm gonna win. The goal here is just hit him as many times as you can before he hits you as many times as you can. Blow him up. And this is one of the only bits of storytelling in the game. If you see this here, this is the jar that had the baby Metroid that you're looking for, and it's broken. So you know that it's been released, it's free. There's subtle stuff throughout the game. If you look, the different areas kind of represent different parts of the Space Pirates' operation, and Meridia would be like the lab where you had, I didn't even mention that before, but you have these kind of weird, weak versions of Metroids that aren't really real Metroids, and that's, I think the official story is that they were trying to clone the Metroid, and then the baby Metroid eventually, instead of cloning it, they grew it into a large-sized Metroid, which we'll see later. I also like the old school TVs that are just hanging. If you look there, just old TV monitors. So this is like, I always picture those two guys were kind of like head of security for this area or something. They're watching what you were doing the whole time, which makes sense since it's their planet. So now that we beat Ridley, the last thing to do in the game is fight Mother Brain, the main villain, and end it. So, yeah, this game used to take me days, weeks, probably years the first time to actually beat it, but now you can beat it in an afternoon, no problem. As long as you know where to go. Energy tank. So you see we have one energy tank left to get that will fill our full complement of 14, I think. I don't want to miss any items at the very end here, but I often do. And then you end up with like a 92% item rate. And I'm like, oh, what was I supposed to pick up? So these are some of the last ones. If, again, you find it, and you're like, okay, I found an item, but it's like, oh, there's more to it. If you super bomb, I feel like going through this kind of maze of junk. can get another power bomb. One of the last ones in the game. And minor backtracking, but not too bad. Just one room. This is what I call the mushroom room. It looks kind of like a Super Mario mushroom. So like a Goomba. Maybe not really. Maybe it's just one of those optical illusions, but I always thought the Mickey Mouse and mushroom rooms were there for a reason. Okay. So very slowly but surely heading out of Norfair, which is great because it's, you know, the hardest place. This spits you out in a familiar area. As you can see, your firepower is a lot more than it was before. Kind of have free reign over these areas now. So you just got to remember, if you're going for 100%, to not forget these rooms you leave along the way, because you can't get to them before. This is one that got me for a while. I did not know about this. Again, every secret room seems to have a second secret room behind it, which is just awesome. Lava doesn't hurt you anymore, so you can totally just run through it now. You're pretty good, basically, for the rest of the game. Like, in terms of the environment is not going to pose much of a threat to you at all. Except the acid, I think, still works against you, but it's just acid. Pause. And we're going to head back up to where we need to be. I think we got every item down here. I can't be sure. We'll see. Like I said, going for 100% here. Hope I get it. And best ending, which I think is under 3 hours. Maybe under 2 hours. You find one of the problems you gotta watch out for is when you have this crazy spin attack, is it eats through a lot of the floors that sometimes you need those floors to kind of be a floor. So even if you're flying through the air, you kind of take out where you need to land sometimes. So you can see you can get through this with the grappling hook or the freeze beam, but way easier to just wait until you have the screw attack, and then you can just fly through it. Alright, so that's the X-beam, X-ray beam. Just for the sake of, in case anyone's watching this, I'll show you what it actually does. Can't Can't remember how to actually use it. Oh, that's a grappling hook. Oh, there we go. So there you can see, you can look through walls, see these need to be broken by power bombs. You learn all that stuff. I've actually forgotten what button activated it. So I don't think I've ever used it lately. It's good to get early on if you can get it early on, if you want to try and find everything on your own. And just explore and check out all the hidden areas of the game, which there are plenty. There's a lot more even than I'm touching here, but I'm just trying to get all the areas that have actual items. And this room here. We're about to be greeted with a ton of nasty, these guys, which are always a big trouble. Not so much with the plasma beam, but still. And a power bomb. Always helpful. This is kind of cool if you are going through this area and you realize, oh, this is right where the game kind of starts out, where you come down this area and face off against space aliens for the first time. So now with the power jump, like, just jump right straight to the ceiling. That used to be something you could reveal but never come back to unless you had the freeze beam. Pausing again. Oh my god, this is the worst chair I've ever sat in. I'm definitely throwing it out today. Also, visible floor, that's just something that's like, okay, let's just have a floor that's completely invisible. No sort of like wall obscuring it or anything like that, just an invisible floor. I do like that, like, pretty deep into the game, you're at the very start now, and there's still things to be found. There's quite a few power-ups hidden at the very start. Like impossible yet. But I want to just because it's fun. There we go. Now you come through this area and you're pretty much unstoppable. Also, this is a cool, one of the last power-ups I found, that this is supposed to be the original mother brain kind of capsule. You go under it, you find a missile. I'm assuming it's like almost like her digestive system or something, and this is just the last thing that she never digested. You just ate the missiles. You just sent them right into her face. That should be the last super missile. I think now I have 40 and 40. Guess we'll see. Guess we'll see at the end. Did I get everything? There is one more power-up that I think it's one of the first missiles you get, but I just skip it at the beginning because it's a lot quicker to get it now. Right in here. So you need to backtrack with the bombs and everything. And here you can just go and get it. Alright, I think now we have a full complement of items, and that is cool. All we gotta do is go find Mother Brain. Again, you've cut through these guys before, but now it's just ridiculous. They are the weakest enemies you could possibly find in the entire game right now. And this is an area you can get to it fairly early in the game, but I think it's cool to see now we have like these 4 gems that are the eyes of the bosses, and you know, you can come back throughout the game, and as you beat them, they'll burn out and turn gray. But I like it when you get them all at once, because you're just like, what? Was this here to taunt me? What's cool is that you don't necessarily have to beat the bosses in the order that they are supposed to be beat in, so you kind of, some people will beat Phantoon before Kraid. You could beat Ridley first if you want. You can do reverse boss order. There's a lot of different ways you can run this game, which kind of what makes it endlessly playable, because you just set new challenges for yourself. I'm just happy to get through it without dying. Oh, and here we come across actual Metroids. Take 5 missiles, or 1 super missile. They're pretty gross to have on you because they just start immediately sucking like life energy and all that stuff out of you. Those floating donuts of death are very frustrating to a lot of people. Especially at the end of the game, which is coming up in a couple minutes actually. Because they tend to knock you off your perch. They're most frustrating, they're not really like that big of a problem now, but back when the first Metroid came out, they always seemed to just throw me off. Having them in my way was the worst part of the game. Alright, so we disposed of those Metroids pretty easily. These guys I don't think can be killed. There are a lot of hits. Also, you start coming across these, like, again, enemies that you fought that are now just insane versions of themselves, and that is because you see, and this guy here too, you can't really effectively kill them. You have the Super Metroid. He just sucks them up and turns them to dust. And then he comes after you, or she, or it. You're like, oh, I can't get through the door, I can't get away from this thing. And it sucked away all your energy. There's a way to completely get past this too. Uh, there's some people that have some crazy jumping skills, and you can actually avoid having this happen to you. But basically, the whole idea is that um, because it imprinted on you, it doesn't really have a problem with you, so it won't kill you. Alright, so here we are at kind of like the last area, which is just a remake of the first Metroid boss area. But I always felt this place was more of just an elaborate cutscene because it's not that hard to get through. Certainly not like the Ridley fight. I mean, it can get annoying here, like if you... a bunch of missiles and boom, and you end up in this area here, which is all you have to do is just not get hit too many times. But because we have so many energy tanks, we actually do want to get hit a little bit if you're trying to save time speedrunning. I guess I'm not really speedrunning, so it's like kind of pointless. But you can use our super missiles too, because might as well use everything you have in this. It's the last time you actually get to use all the weapons that you have, because and I'm not even worried about taking hits because we have lots of life to spare. And then once you start sucking in energy for like this kind of crazy like death beam, which I think will be right now, and it's a good time to bring things down to about 4. Because if you have too much energy, she'll just keep blasting you and doing this process over and over again. And if you're doing real-time timing, it'll slow you down. Oh. And yeah, you're kind of helpless here, so you just gotta sit and wait to get powered up again. But once you are fully powered up, you have this crazy new like beam, rainbow beam, plasma beam, something. No, we already had the plasma beam. Some sort of nuclear rainbow. It's pretty awesome. R.I.P. Baby Metroid. Basically no time at all, you can just take care of the last boss. Yeah, and Ridley seems like the more significant victory. This is more kind of just affirming story points, wrapping up things. countdown's on. Time to get out of here. We are almost done. I love the earthquake effect. It just throws me off so much, especially when I'm really this close to the TV screen. I'm normally quite far away. This just feels like I have some sort of horrible eye condition. And that's a nice little shortcut to save some time. Just power jump through the whole thing. And this bookends nicely with the first chapter of the game, where you have like a minute to get out of a space station, and you're beating a retreat in defeat, and here you're escaping with a bittersweet victory of sorts. And there we go. Cool Mode 7 effect here too. Again, stuff like this you just didn't see on video games prior to the Super Nintendo coming out. Crazy effects here. Like a lot like Alien 2, where you kind of beat the last queen, mother brain, planet's gonna blow up. Very much like someone definitely watched these classic sci-fi movies and put together their own version of events. Operation was completed successfully. The only way to complete it. 1 hour, 27 minutes game time. That's not the worst. Like I said, under an hour and a half in game time, which is a lot less time in real life. That's however long we've been here, 2-3 hours. But like I said, playing this game, I would not mind playing this game a million times on the stream. I would love to get down to under an hour in game time. That'd be my goal for this channel, really. But yeah, in my opinion, one of the best video games ever made, and probably the best, certainly from the platforming era. Soundtrack's amazing, story's great, people still play it, which usually is standing the test of time is the best argument that any game can have as to its impact. Except Pong. We all know Pong's important, but I don't want to play Pong. Kenji Yamamoto. Again, music is awesome. A lot of Kenjis on this. Must be maybe a common name. Yeah, so that's my Saturday stream. Next couple days I have off before I'm starting a new job, so I might jump on again, but I'm mostly just in the middle of getting ready for that. It's going to be a significant change to my lifestyle, so I have no idea when I will be regularly streaming after the dust settles on this, because it'll be kind of shift work and interesting times. But I hope to get on here as much, if not more, just when I have a minute, because I love playing games and streaming is fun. I also got I picked up the new Mega Man 11, which looks great. I played a couple minutes of it, and it just looks like another great platformer. Not a total throwback to the older Mega Man games, because I think the last couple that have come out have actually been retro NES style, but this looks like a modern take on the classic Mega Man format. So I might jump into that, because we love playing Mega Man, but I might save that for the Deadbeats channel exclusively, since I want to kind of bring some new games to that. All right, we get to see if I got 100% items, it's hard to remember them all. Hopefully I did. Would not surprise me if I didn't. And it looks like we got the best ending because for some reason it's a Metroid tradition where it's like the faster you beat the game, the more Samus takes her clothes off or something. So, go 90s. Brave for collecting items is 90. Oh, yeah, I missed something. Not sure what. Damn. I have no idea what I missed. But I missed something. 99%. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'll go back and try and find that, but now I have a reason to play it again. So I will see you guys later. What did I miss? That's amazing. You think of like all that stuff that I found. Still missed something. Shucks. Oh well, next time.